Our mission parameters were simple: survey and clear designated sectors of the seabed. It was routine work, a digital grid laid over the abyssal plain, each square a task to be completed. We'd spent weeks cataloging geological formations and clearing debris left over from a century of surface activity. Most of it was just that: debris. Forgotten anchors, discarded containers, the skeletal remains of old fishing trawlers. So when the sonar returned a faint, lumpy signature in Sector Gamma 7, we logged it as probable salvage. Just another piece of junk cluttering the ocean floor. On visual approach, it did nothing to change our minds. It was an amorphous lump of reddish-brown metal, half swallowed by the silt and the perpetual gloom. From the remote operations vehicle's high-gain imagers, it looked like a piece of sheared-off hull plating or a mangled engine block. We thought it was scrap. Our close-range optical sensors painted a picture of profound decay. The surface was a chaotic landscape of corrosion. Flaky, umber-colored rust peeled away in layers, disturbed by the gentle currents from our ROV's thrusters. It was deeply pitted, scarred by what must have been decades, if not centuries, of slow, relentless oxidation in the crushing, saline darkness. Rusty. The edges were jagged, torn as if by some immense ancient force. We could see stress fractures running deep into the material, dark voids where the structure had completely given way. Broken. There was no larger debris field, no wreckage to suggest it was part of something more significant. It sat alone, a solitary monument to decay. The mission directive was clear: identify, assess, and if deemed non-hazardous and of no historical value, remove. This object ticked all the boxes for simple disposal. It was, by every metric we had, worthless. The decision was made in seconds. Log it, tag it for retrieval, and move on to the next grid square. The recovery rig was maneuvered into position, its heavy-lift winch system humming to life. The process was automated, precise. Twin grapples descended through the water column, their guidance lasers painting green dots on the object's surface. We selected what looked like the most stable anchor points, two protrusions that seemed solid enough to bear the load. The clamps engaged with a satisfying hydraulic thud. Everything was nominal, until we tried to lift it. The winch spooled, the braided cable drew taut, vibrating with tension. On the topside monitor, we saw the load cells register the initial strain. The numbers climbed: 10 tons, 20, 30. The winch motor whined, its pitch increasing as it fought against the load. But down below, in the silent dark, nothing happened. The object remained perfectly still, as if welded to the seabed. And it didn't move. Our first assumption was simple: it must be buried. Suction from the deep silt can create a powerful anchor. We held the tension on the cable and used the ROV's thrusters to create a directed current, a jet wash to blow away the sediment around the object's base. The silt billowed up in thick clouds, but as it cleared, we saw the truth. The object was merely resting on the surface. A clear gap was now visible all the way around its perimeter. Not buried. The next logical explanation was that it was snagged on an unseen geological feature, a rocky outcrop hidden beneath the sand. We deployed the ROV for a full 360-degree inspection, its cameras peering into the newly excavated space beneath the object. The seafloor was flat, featureless. There were no rocks, no outcroppings, no other debris for it to be caught on. It was completely free, not stuck. This left only one possibility, one that didn't make any sense. We checked the load sensors again. The numbers were still climbing: 40 tons, 50. The winch was now operating at 80% of its maximum safe capacity. The sheer physics of the situation were baffling. For an object of its estimated size and material, corroded steel, its weight should have been a fraction of this. But the data from the strain gauges was undeniable. It was just heavy. 60 tons. An alarm began to chirp in the control room, a calm but insistent digital tone. The system was warning us that we were approaching the structural limits of the lifting cable. The safety protocols were about to engage and halt the operation. This wasn't just heavy. This was an order of magnitude beyond anything we had anticipated. Too heavy. We ran the numbers again. We input the object's dimensions, calculated from the ROV's laser scanners, into the system. We accounted for the buoyancy of seawater. We used the most generous estimate, assuming it was solid, non-corroded steel. The system calculated a maximum possible weight of around 8 tons. The gauges were reading nearly 8 times that. We reran the calculation assuming it was solid lead. Still not enough. We tried tungsten, one of the densest materials known to man. The numbers still didn't add up. This object was heavier than scrap should ever be, heavier than it had any right to be. The winch hit 95% capacity. The cable was stretched to its breaking point, humming with an audible, low-frequency vibration that our hydrophones picked up. For a fraction of a second, the object shuddered. It didn't lift, but it shifted, grinding against the silt with an infinitesimal movement that sent a puff of fine sediment bursting upwards. The load spiked one last time, and the automatic safeties finally kicked in, cutting power to the winch. That's when we stopped. The mission parameters had changed. This was no longer a salvage operation. It was a first contact protocol of a different sort. We needed to see what was under the centuries of decay. We used a low-pressure water jet to carefully strip away the corrosion from a small, flat section. The rust dissolved into a red fog, and what lay beneath was wrong. It wasn't pitted or corroded metal. It was a smooth, dark, non-reflective surface. It looked less like metal and more like polished obsidian, absorbing the ROV's light without a single glint. And as we cleaned a larger area, we saw it. A line. So fine it was almost invisible. Perfectly straight, with no weld marks, no rivets. A seam. Scrap doesn't have seams. Not like this. Not engineered with a precision that our own technology would struggle to replicate. Suddenly, all the impossible data points clicked into place. The impossible weight. The fact that it was freestanding. The engineered surface hidden beneath the rust. The precise, almost organic seam. Each piece of information was an anomaly on its own. Together, they formed a conclusion that was both terrifying and undeniable. This was not a piece of a ship. It was not debris. It was something else entirely. Something constructed, something lost, and something impossibly, unnaturally dense. The order was given to release the grapples. The tension vanished from the cable, and the object settled back into its resting place, its secrets once again shrouded by the deep. We had disturbed it, but we had not moved it. We couldn't. We marked the perimeter, planting sonar beacons to create a permanent monitored exclusion zone. This patch of unremarkable seabed was now the most important location in the ocean. We took final measurements, updated the logs with the new, shocking data, and initiated a full sensor blackout in the sector to prevent accidental discovery. The official report was filed. The original assessment, probable scrap, was deleted. The object was reclassified. It was given a new designation, Unidentified Submerged Anomaly, 01. Our final action before withdrawal was to cover our tracks. We gently reburied the edges of the object, hiding the evidence of our attempt to lift it, concealing the clean patch and the seam we had uncovered. We made it look untouched, just as we had found it. Then we pulled back, leaving it to its silent vigil in the crushing dark. The coordinates were classified, redacted from all but the highest security logs. The crew was debriefed and sworn to secrecy. The official story became the one we started with. We found nothing but worthless scrap. Scrap was the cover story. We left it there. Because some things are too heavy to move, not just in mass, but in implication, and we understood that we had stumbled upon something that humanity was not yet ready to lift. But questions that heavy don't stay buried forever. Subscribe. We're going back.